Hey everybody, welcome to Kelly's Prepping Kitchen. I am so excited because I am off today. Normally Monday is my really busy day. I run a concierge service here in my community where I run errands for people. I do some light housekeeping for those who are recovering from surgery, who are sick, whatever the case may be, if they're bedridden for a while. I've got my caregiving experience. I pet sit, I grocery shop, I shuttle kids, I shuttle elderly people to doctor's appointments, I take people to the airport. So normally on Monday, I do laundry for a family that has 2 sets of twins. They have 5 kids in total. So I'm usually doing laundry all day on Monday. When I get off, I'm pooped. I just come home and normally just pop something in the microwave, a frozen meal or something. I just don't feel like cooking on Monday. So long story short, I have today off. So I am going to do a meatless Monday, and what I'm thinking about doing is some chickpea burgers with some tzatziki sauce, a bread pudding. This is kind of one of those days where I'm going to go through my produce and see what needs to get used up. I've got some croissants that I need to use, so I'm going to do this recipe that I saw at a restaurant where they take croissant bread and make like a bread pudding out of it, and it had peaches on it. So I've got these grilled, oh, those aren't peaches, those are mangoes. Okay, so we're gonna have a mango croissant bread pudding, but anyway, I thought these were peaches. I might have some grilled peaches somewhere too. Anyway, this is what I'm going to be using. I am also going to make a roasted vegetable salad. So I'm going to roast some gnocchi. I never knew you could roast gnocchi. Like when I use it as a dumpling, you know, like I make chicken and gnocchi dumplings. But I thought, ooh, that sounds good, roasting it, where it's like crispy on the outside and kind of soft on the inside. So I will be making a roasted vegetable salad. I'm going to go ahead and prep it while everybody's either at work or asleep or whatever, just to kind of get that out of the way. And then we can either eat it cold, as like I said, as a salad, or we can heat it up if we just want to eat roasted vegetables. So let's get started, shall we? For the roasted gnocchi and vegetables, I am going to use a package of gnocchi, a handful of these assorted tomatoes, Brussels sprouts that are getting a little past their peak. I'm going to cut up some onion, basil off of my basil plant, a couple of tablespoons of basil pesto, a little garlic, a little Italian seasoning. I've got the oven set to 425. We're going to bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes, so let's get started. I washed about a cup of these tomatoes. I'm not going to cut them. I personally like them when they blister in the oven. I rinsed these handful of Brussels sprouts, and I'm just going to kind of cut them in half. The thing about organic produce is it kind of tends to go bad a lot faster. Some of these have a little bit of brown pieces on it. I've tried to cut some that looked super sketch. But you know what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So anyway, oh, and I forgot to say I'm cutting these lengthwise. Oops, I did it again. I keep getting too small of bowls. I already know this is going to get full, and I'm going to have to end up transferring it. I am only going to use about half of an onion on this, and I'm not going to dice them. I'm just going to kind of give them a rough little chop here. Well, the star of the show, the gnocchi, fit into this bowl. Why do I keep doing this to myself? So I just put a little bit of parchment paper onto a baking sheet, and I'm just going to dump this out. I was going to attempt to mix it in the bowl, but let's just mix it on the tray instead. You want to break up these gnocchis because they've been packaged and crammed real tight. They're going to look like this until you separate them out. Let's add a little bit of Italian seasoning. Might be about a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more. Put a little bit of minced garlic and its liquid up in here. Do a couple of generous spoonfuls of this basil pesto. Didn't mention olive oil in the ingredients, but I'm going to go ahead and hit it up with a couple of sprays. I also didn't mention Parmesan cheese. Obviously, I prefer fresh. I'm not a big fan of this, but I'm just going to break up a little. Now, I took a couple of those leaves and kind of rinsed them a little bit. Just going to put some fresh basil in here. You know, it wouldn't be me without making a few modifications as I go, adding all these extra ingredients. I think I'm also going to throw a little bit of salt and pepper on this as well. I'm just going to go in with my hands and mix it. Now let's get this in the oven for 20 minutes. Like I said, I set the oven to 425. These smell absolutely amazing. I can't wait to taste them. See you in 20. Wish you could smell this. It smells awesome. It's time to take it out of the oven. That looks amazing. The gnocchi crisped up real nicely. So did the Brussels sprouts. And I love blistered tomatoes. So these are going to be awesome. The onions, those look good. Now I'm going to go ahead and get started on the bread pudding. I'm going to leave the original recipe in the description box below, but I'm making a little bit of a modification. It calls for 1 cup of sugar. I'm only going to do a half. I'm also going to be adding these grilled mangoes, which the recipe does not call for, so I know this is going to have some sweetness to it. And you are going to want to grease a casserole dish, and I'm going to use 2 cups of milk. I'm going to use 1.5 tablespoon vanilla extract, 3 eggs, 6 cups of bread. I have Croissant's granola in it because it's got a coconut taste to it. I thought coconut and mango would kind of be a nice tropical vibe. And then I'm going to throw some raisins in because why not? 2 tablespoons of melted butter. So I need to melt this. But before I do so, I am going to grease the casserole dish. Let's get started on the bread pudding so it can begin soaking. Let's start tearing up these croissants. So that looks good. I'm going to set the bread aside while I melt the butter. I know I said that I'm gonna half the sugar content in this. So it calls for a cup. I'm doing a half a cup. But I did decide, because I think brown sugar makes everything so much better, I'm just going to put like a couple little tablespoons of brown sugar in here. Now I'm going to go in with the 2 cups of milk. Let's go in with the 3 eggs. Now let's add the 1.5 tablespoons of vanilla. Now attempt to whisk this, but I might have to get out the hand mixer. I did end up having to use the hand mixer. I think I forgot to add cinnamon. Give that a good mix. Again, if I'm leaving things out or adding things at the last second, I will have the original recipe below. Let's go ahead and add this mixture into the bread pudding so it can begin soaking. I'm going to push all the bread down to make sure that it soaks up that liquid. The bread pudding recipe did not call for raisins, but I have some that I need to use up. So I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle a handful. I'm going to add a little bit of the coconut granola just to give it a little bit of texture and some of that good coconut flavor. So I went to drain the grilled mangoes and I tasted the juice and it's delicious. It's got like a smoky taste to it, and believe it or not, it kind of has a little rum taste to it. I don't know. So I'm going to save this juice and I'm going to add this into the glaze just to give it a little extra something. Give these mangoes just a rough chop. You can see that charred stuff. Oh my gosh, this is going to be good. Now you can either do it with the fruit on top, or you can kind of mix it in. I don't have a whole lot of room to stir, but I'm just going to kind of press it down. I let the bread pudding soak for about 30 minutes. It appears that most of that liquid is absorbed. So now we are going to put this in an oven set to 350, and I'm going to bake it for about 50 to 55 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and assemble the glaze now, the vanilla glaze. Instead of adding the, I think, half a cup of butter, a cup of sugar, that just sounds like overkill to me. So, like I said, I'm going to use this mango juice, which is in light syrup, and I'm going to use that instead, because I think that this is plenty sweet on its own. Let me see how much this yields. That's actually about a cup of syrup juice, vanilla, because that's how you make a vanilla glaze. I'll say about, maybe a little bit over a tablespoon. And then the recipe does not call for cinnamon, but I think cinnamon just elevates everything. So that's about maybe a teaspoon, a half a cup of my heavy whipping cream. And I'm just gonna simmer this on the stove until it gets a little bit thick. Ended up adding about a tablespoon of butter to this because it's not really thickening up too much. And I'm going to go ahead and just throw a little bit of powdered sugar in there. I just kind of want to get it to a pourable icing. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to add some more sugar back anyway. This did eventually thicken up. Okay, but I still want it a little bit thicker. So I think you're better off if a recipe just seems like it's got too much sugar and butter and all that. I know a lot of times there's no way around that, but let me tell you, this one time around the holidays, I made a Paula Deen pumpkin cheesecake. I accidentally left out a whole cup of butter, and it turned out perfect. So I'm like, dang, if I can get by with not using that butter, I think I'm better off. So I am just going to gradually add a little bit more to thicken this up. You know, keep in mind, this glaze is something I just winged at the last second. I mean, there's 1,000 recipes online how to make a glaze for your bread pudding. I just decided, hey, I'm going to use the syrup that those mangoes came in. So I'm just going to, I might can put it back on the stovetop and continue to warm it, and that might thicken it up as well. Okay, so the bread pudding is done. It smells and looks amazing. And the glaze, believe it or not, it just needed more time on the stovetop to thicken up. I'm always impatient and I'm taking it off too soon. But this is the exact texture that I want. It's a beautiful brown color. I'm kind of just going to do this like a poke cake. I'm just going to, and you can expect it to be a little jiggly still. I mean, it's done, but like while it's cooling off, it's going to be a little bit jiggly, but I'm just going to poke some holes because I want this glaze to get in every possible nook and cranny. Y'all, I just had a little bite of this bread pudding just to taste it. Give it a taste test. It's excellent. I love it. Corey's going to love this. It does kind of give you peach cobbler vibes. The croissant is like real flaky. It's better than a dense stale bread in my opinion. And then the mangoes being grilled with that smokiness. Excellent, but we'll have Corey do a taste test later. So now we are moving on to the chickpea burgers, and I'm kind of going to make it a Mediterranean flair. I'm going to put some lemon juice in it, serve it with some cold cucumbers. But anyway, if you are trying to eat healthier, or maybe just once a week you want to cut out meat because it's kind of expensive, whatever the case may be, bean burgers, whether it be using chickpeas, black beans, pinto beans, whatever, bean burgers are literally the easiest thing to make. If you know how to make meatloaf, it's kind of like that. So let's get started. Let me show you the ingredients. All right, here we go. So fun fact about chickpeas, the liquid that comes with them, you know, normally you drain for a recipe, but if you hang on to it, you can use that as a substitute for eggs. So it's kind of crazy that I'm going to drain this and then I'm going to turn around and add an egg, but that's just what I'm going to do. But I just wanted you to know in the future, with egg shortages and the price of eggs rising, you can totally use the juice that this comes in. So you just, I believe, just beat it and it'll just thicken up just like an egg. And I wouldn't recommend you eating it like by itself, like making a scrambled egg out of this, but like for baking is what I'm saying. All right, so I'm going to start out with some drained chickpeas. I could not find my breadcrumbs anywhere, so I am going to take this stuffing that I got from Walmart after Thanksgiving for 25 cents, and I am just going to grind up about half a cup. I'm going to use this other half of the onion from roasted vegetables. Got my egg, got some lemon juice. For a binding agent, I'm also going to use, in addition to the breadcrumbs, I'm going to use a little bit of oatmeal. And you just add how much you want. Like I said, if you're making meatloaf or making burgers, just kind of add whatever seasonings you want. I'm going to put this Mediterranean garlic blend, some freeze-dried onions, some Applewood smoked salt, and some August Farms spinach flakes. So let's get started. Okay, this looks perfect, so I'm going to just dump this in a bowl and set it aside because I want to be able to have this empty to grind up my chickpeas. Peas are drained. Okay, I just gave the onions a little rough chop. Go ahead and add the egg. Add about a tablespoon of lemon juice. I didn't let this go until it was all the way smooth. I kind of like some change in the texture and consistency, so I have some little half pieces of chickpea in here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit of oatmeal. I guess you could grind this up too, but I'm fine with it like this. I'm only going to do, that's probably about 2 tablespoons worth. Nice color. Going to go in with a little generous helping of the spinach flakes. About a teaspoon of smoked salt. We're going to go in with about a tablespoon of the Mediterranean seasoning. A little bit of freeze-dried onion. Granulated garlic powder. You can never have enough onion, so let's go ahead and do some onion powder. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the chickpea mixture in with the breadcrumb mixture. And if I feel that we need to add more breadcrumbs, we can definitely do that. Okay, let's get this all mixed together. I think I'm going to add another 1/4 of a cup of the breadcrumbs just to play it safe and make sure that it holds together. Yeah, we need just a little bit more. This has such a good flavor. It tastes very similar to, if you can envision, hummus, but like with some texture elements. I got these cool patty paper squares at the Dollar Tree. I like to use these as dividers when I'm making meat patties or when I'm making tortillas. I had to switch to voiceover mode in the kitchen. My daughter Olivia was doing chores and rocking out to Backstreet Boys, so I didn't want to get a copyright strike. I'm going to stick these in the freezer, let them firm up a little bit, and then they'll be ready to go when everybody's home from work. Okay, so I've turned the skillet on, and I'm just going to spray it with a little bit of olive oil. The patties have been in the freezer for a couple of hours, just enough to firm up. They're not frozen all the way, but I want them to hold their shape when I fry them. And you can do these in the air fryer or out on the grill. I'm just keeping it simple today. Alright, so let's flip this over. I forgot to mention I've got it on a medium heat, and I did it 5 minutes on the first side. You just use your judgment. And Corey brought home some pita bread, so he's going to make his into a gyro. This is Corey's plate, so I'm going to go ahead and divide this in half so it will fit onto the pita. And then he's going to come put whatever toppings he wants on it. First, we're going to add a little tzatziki sauce. We're going to put some sliced jalapeno. He decided to use these pickled red onions. Then he's going to add a little bit of lettuce. He's going to eat a little bit of the gnocchi roasted vegetable salad, cold. I'll give you some tomatoes and some onion, gnocchi, Brussels sprouts.
Okay.
And you can either drizzle some olive oil on this, you can let it come to room temperature, eat it plain. It's got all that basil on there. So now it's time for a taste test.
Gyro.
It's a mouthful.
Chickpea burger got a lot of good flavor. I like a smoky flavor.
Probably some of the seasonings I put in there. I used some smoked salt. Now how about those vegetables?
That's good too. Mom, it doesn't need to add anything to it.
You don't want to drizzle any tzatziki sauce, or is it okay on
it? The way it is.
Awesome. Alright guys, well there you have it. We'll be back for the bread pudding taste test. We're going to go ahead and scoop out some of this bread pudding. We're not going to heat it. We're going to just eat it as it is. Alright everybody, so time to taste test this bread pudding. Look at it guys. Look how good that looks. Alrighty.
Get it raisin.
That's good. It reminds me of around the holidays I did that slow cooker cinnamon roll.
Yeah, exactly.
Cinnamon roll, and I put the peaches in it.
Got a lot of cinnamon flavor.
Because mangoes and peaches taste a lot alike. These are really good. I taste the brown sugar.
If you get a raisin with it.
Can you tell I put some coconut flakes on there? I didn't really put much, so you probably can't tell.
Yeah, I can tell that it's a lot of cinnamon, which that's what I like. Bread pudding.
Alright guys.
Success.
Hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you next time. Bye.